Board of Adjustment order. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Scott Cummings,
Here.
Alexis Gonzalez,
Here.
John Moran,
Here.
Francis Reddington, Jeff Truitt,
Here.
Owen Curley,
Here.
Dan Elmali.
Here. I, for one, have had no ex parte communications with anyone regarding any item on the agenda tonight.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had no export communication.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 16 meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
We have some correspondence that will be read at appropriate time during our meeting. There's no old business. Our first item of new business, please.
Board calls case number BOA number 21-100017. Applicant owner Martin Ramos, property address 1107 19th Street North, parcel ID 179112-0040. Legal description lot 6, block 44, section A, Jacksonville Beach, current zoning RS2. Motion to consider a variance from Land Development Code sections 34-337E1E for 43% lot coverage in lieu of 35% maximum to allow for a paver patio around a pool addition to
Matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Martin Ramos, 1107 19th Street North, Jacksonville Beach, 32250.
And can you please explain to the board what the nature of your hardship is as far as your request?
I would just like to go beyond the standard lot coverage in order to accommodate for some pavers around the pool. My lot's smaller than the other lots. When this ordinance was put into place, it was for 7,500 square foot lots. I've got 5,000 square foot lot. And so I'm trying to appeal to the board based on this discrepancy and would ask to be able to exceed the normal standard of the 35% up to the proposed 43%.
Can you take a moment to explain to myself particularly?
Yes,
I
sir.
see you have pavers, gravel, sandy beach, grass. Is that your plan? I'm just trying to understand, you know, a lot of, is that, to get to that, is that the only area you have pavers where it says pavers?
Yeah, that's the only area that I've
So everything else is not, is pervious then? The gravel,
Yeah, everything
grass.
else is pervious.
So the only area is pavers, that one paver area you can, okay.
That's correct.
Any other questions?
I do recognize the hardship of the undersized lot.
Yeah.
On record.
Okay, you may be seated.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any figures for this?
We do not.
I close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and some sort of resolution.
I find it very reasonable based upon the square footage of the lot, and I did 43% and planning to have grass and gravel. We don't see that very often.
And sandy beach, I think that's great. I'm supporting.
And I did the calculation, if this was a standard size lot, it would be 29.4% lot coverage. So it's very reasonable request.
You sold me, John. I'll make a motion to pass BOA 21-10017 as proposed and discussed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Scott Cummings,
Yes.
Alexis Gonzalez,
Yes.
Francis Reddington,
Yes.
Jeff Truitt,
Yes.
John Moran.
Yes. You have your request.
Thank you very much.
The next item, please.
Board calls case number BOA number 21-100020. Applicant Delinda Auld, or Delina Ald, owner Carlotta Miller, property address 130 15th Avenue North, parcel ID 173992-0000, legal description, lot 116, Flagler Tract, current zoning RS2, motion to consider a variance from Land Development Code Sections 34-338E1E for 49.8% lot coverage in lieu of 35% maximum to allow for construction of a new single-family dwelling.
We need to be sworn in.
If I could have you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have to speak loudly, please.
Delina Ald, 106 17th Avenue North, Jacksonville Beach.
Can you explain to the board the nature of your hardship created by the property?
Sure. I'm asking for a variance for lot coverage based on the property size. Property was owned, I think, in 1939, and it's a smaller lot, it's only 4,800 square feet. So, the plans that we crafted with the setbacks force it to 40%.
So in your drawing here, you have a 31-foot wide driveway, is that what I'm understanding this as?
Yes,
That's 20 feet, not including the setbacks, I guess that's,
31 feet for the 3 cars.
3 cars.
I have a thing for cars, so if anyone has a 76 Eldorado convertible or something, I'll put that in.
Could you perhaps speak closer to the mic?
Sure.
Hold that hand.
this is a single-family home,
It
correct?
is, correct. The lot today has two
Two
residences.
residences on it.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's an old garage in the back that was converted to a studio apartment, and then it's the house in the front. And today, the way you have to park is you either park in the backyard, in the side yard, or in the front yard.
Or mostly parking in public parking.
Or the parking in the
I know
yard.
exactly what the unit is there.
Okay, great.
Close, yeah. So, is this it's not relevant, but is this a 2-story structure looking at, or do you have decided yet?
I believe we're gonna go 3 stories.
3 stories?
Yeah. We're right next to a parking lot, so we're not gonna block.
Next to that, the rental, that's the side you have the 6-foot on, it, right? Yeah.
Correct.
So she'll just build a single-family home and there won't be
Yes.
another rental?
Yeah, no, my husband and I own it.
You do realize at this point you wouldn't be able to come back for a pool, or unless you put a pool, just scoping, but you're
Yeah, we've
at
had
the
a-
max.
Big one across the street, but I don't have to clean.
Any other comments or questions?
I have none.
Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
And I'm calling into the public hearing and bring this back before the board.
I'm sorry, you have a call.
I withdraw.
Sorry.
Public hearing is still open.
We have a card from Sally McAfee, 222 14th Avenue North, who wishes to address the board.
You please let yourself be sworn in.
If I can have you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do, thank you.
And I'll need you to state your name and address for the record, and you will need to speak loudly.
Can I take my mask off to talk in the microphone?
I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Thank you. Sally McAtee, I'm at 222 14th Avenue North, Unit 207. It's a small condo complex, a block south. So I was going to email these questions, but since I was driving through on my way home, I thought in general, I know that we've been very thoughtful at our condo complex with drainage, and we've pursued options with Public Works, and I just wanted to bring a few questions. I'm tentatively opposed on the basis of a few items that we've had experience in the past with our property. So my question, and some of these questions were answered. The first question I had was clarifying whether the small building in the rear was going to be removed. And then I just wanted to comment in just driving by, checking out the area. When we had our drainage adjusted a couple of years ago with the 14th Avenue, they removed the curbing which created kind of overflow of water, organized water as a river into our grassy property, as a designed way of controlling water flow during a hurricane and deluge of rains. So in driving by the property as an interested neighbor, there are those concrete parking places, city parking places across the street. So it's my observation, there's not too much drainage opportunity. And my question is for you, you know the location, whether that's going to be any kind of a hardship for anybody in that area with greater water flowing downstream. The other question I had was, I'm surprised the people that own the house next door on the corner are not here. And my question is, I know of some other people at Jack's Beach who've not been allowed to place pavers in their backyard because the next door neighbor said that with the uncontrolled guttering and drainage, they inherited some of the water runoff from the neighbor. And one of the questions was answered by this drawing, and that is, what is the construction of the driveway, and whether pervious pavers are going to be used or gravel. I noticed around Jack's Beach that there's a mixture of those, that composition to help with drainage. If it's solid concrete, your water runoff obviously is going to be greater. And then the other question I had was, will there be future concrete patios in the backyard or pavers for a barbecue grill, and has that been added to the square footage? And is there a landscape plan to help organize with, I know that my friend's house required special guttering to make sure that water running off of the roof did not fly over and land in that neighbor's yard. The neighbor of my friend had a lot of problems. And anyway, that's just questions to expand the thoughts. Where I know we've been, the city's been very resistant to some things that we wanted to propose, and it's like a river flowing down our avenue when it rains. So anyway, I'm just talking for the people downstream.
Okay. Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to address these questions?
Sure, so the design that we have is, we want to have all grass in the backyard because we have 2 dogs and they need a yard to play in. We plan on putting rock on the side of the house, and then for the driveway, we were going to try and do the pervious pavers, but then I saw this design over the weekend that was pretty cool. It was like a concrete block like this big and that big, but it had rock and grass in between it, so it was really kind of a modern, cool look to it. So for drainage, it won't be all concrete. No. To answer your question there. The landscaping, we're going to keep the trees. We're probably going to add some palm trees in the backyard again for the dogs. We're probably going to add more palm trees in the backyard for the dogs to run around. Not too much for them to tear up though. But yeah, we do want to keep it where the drainage. I totally understand your concern, but we do want to keep it, not a concrete jungle.
Is that 31 by 20 aggregate, or is that where you're putting the large concrete parking area?
The parking area with the concrete is the 31 by 20. Yeah.
That's at 100% purpose, so, okay.
And the walkway along the sides, what you said will be gravel? Or the walkway?
I hadn't gotten that far. I was thinking just the normal pavers, but if there's something special that I need to put there, I'm not opposed to putting maybe rocks with the stepping stones.
I'm sorry, was that question around the walkway?
Yes, sir.
Because the walkway does appear to be 2 feet off the property line, and at least it appears to be in your calculation blacktop. So I guess the question was, if you were to take that out or make your front door a little bit closer, or somehow mitigate that proximity to the property line?
Yeah, we can actually shift it too, if we need to shift the house over, because we left 9 feet on the west side, 6 feet on the east side, so if I need to shift it down, I can do that, or we can flip it as well. Actually, I think the latest design has the walkway and the front door on the other side, on the 9-foot side.
Is there you planning a garage as well, I assume?
Two-car with a
Two-car
golf
garage
cart.
with the 3 outside, so basically you have capacity up to 5 cars.
Yeah, we have a golf cart. Two-car golf with a golf cart. And room for my Cadillac.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now do finally call this public hearing to an end and bring it back to the board.
I guess I have a procedural question. So, you mentioned maybe doing something with that walkway, which looks like it's a 2-foot setback now. How does, so it's 6 foot on the back end, I guess the south end, the 2 feet, I guess it's about 2 feet.
I think she said she can't go to the west side.
So, yeah, I guess that's my question. So how does that work? Do we approve or don't approve, something like that?
There's no way, it's not part of the west side.
It doesn't work. So we don't address that.
Yeah, basically, she's not requesting a side yard setback. And I'm assuming that that's because the city has decided that she doesn't need one for some reason.
The 2-foot setback for the walkway is allowed by code.
It is.
Yes.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes, that's why it's not, and the drainage, of course, all of that is addressed at permitting. We do the engineered site drainage plan and all that to ensure that, all that's taken care of in our office.
Okay.
Thanks.
So the request is just for the.
Just for the-
And I'm pretty, it is a substandard lot. By my calculations, if it was a standard size lot, it would be a 39.8% lot.
I have a little comments. First of all, I didn't receive notification of this because I operate the business next door. I received that one, I didn't get notice of this. Not a problem, I saw the sign. But secondly, that's the only street, Jack's Beach, that I drive in the rain. There's no flooding in the street. It's brown, that street. But it's definitely a very, needs enhancement, that area, that house is, this would be a nice enhancement to the area. But it's, I wish I had a little more specification on the house other than just a grid drawing.
I can't hear you.
I wish I had a little more than just this.
Yeah.
That would help me.
Any other questions, comments?
I have none.
Well, in that case, the chair would appreciate a motion of one sort or another.
I move we approve BOA number 21-100020 as it meets the standards of our land development code.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Alexa Gonzalez,
Yes.
Francis Reddington,
Here.
Jeff Truitt,
Yes.
Scott Cummings,
Yes.
John Moore.
Yes. Your motion is approved, or your request is approved. Next item, please.
Thank you, board.
The board calls case number BOA number 21-100023. Applicant owner Damon Metrakos, agent Palace Pools Inc., property address 3345 America Avenue, parcel ID 181076-1540. Legal description lot 166, Constitution Code Unit 7, current zoning RS2. Motion to consider a variance from Land Development Code Sections 34-337E1E for 39.9% lot coverage in lieu of 35% maximum to allow for a pool and paver patio addition to an existing single-family dwelling.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Damon Peter Metropoulos, 3345 Jacks Beach, 32250.
Okay. Can you explain to the board the nature of your hardship created by property?
Yes, sir. The hardship is that we have a 35.4% impervious lot coverage, and that was there when we bought the house. And of course, as we all know, that is above the 35% limit presented by the city. 39.4% impervious lot coverage, which obviously is above the 35% minimum. And so our hardship is that we're already above that. So we're just trying to get the 39.9% to get, we're building a pool, jacuzzi, pavers, and a screen as well. So that's the overview of the project.
The lot is currently 10,226 square feet, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So it is an RS1. This is an RS2, which is 7,500 square feet requirement. So you're well over the minimum. And that concrete to the side, is it,
The concrete side is a pad where I park my car. My wife gets the nice parking spot in the driveway.
It's a very large lot for an RS2. And they have some configure out shape challenges.
And your house, where the pool would be, backs up to a fence with a cul-de-sac on the other side, so behind the house?
Yes, ma'am. And we have the fence, and then there's the easement, and then I forget if it's Justice or Victory that loops behind us.
How wide is the easement,
Oh gosh, I do not. I think possibly 10 feet, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
There's no homes behind that at all.
There are homes. So our house and the house to the north, the houses to the north, the backs face that road, and then to our right, the house to the south, and then on the other side, the front of their houses face the cul-de-sac. It's kind of funky.
There's a lot of pavers back there, I guess, existing, and you're gonna try to match those, or?
They are similar. They're similar, but we're ripping those out. But the color's similar, but we are.
I'm sorry, so you're taking out those existing pavers back there?
Yes, sir, and we're replacing, so that impervious lot coverage will still be impervious, just with different pavers.
The problem I have is that you've got an excessively large lot, which actually is not hardship. And I'm open to helping you understand how your lot creates hardship.
The lot size, and you're correct, Mr. Mullen, the lot size is not a hardship. The part that we are already over the 35% is a hardship. And we're only really going for, 4.5% increased coverage. So we actually work very closely with Palace Pools to stay under the 40%. And we've tailored it, we've reduced a couple of times, we've had multiple iterations of the plan. And we had more before that, but then just to stay under, respect to what we wanted to do, we came in at the 39.9%.
Do you happen to know what the percent lot coverage would be if we view this as an RS2 lot where 7,500 square feet is standard?
I did not do that calculation. I did a lot of calculations for this, but I did not do if it was the 7,500.
Do you know?
I can do it real quick.
Okay.
You're saying if the lot size is at 10,226 with 7,500, it would be, so 4,082 proposed square feet divided by 7,500, it would be 54.4%.
Okay. Now that I think, compared to what we usually approve, is rather excessive. What can you do to bring down the lot coverage?
Sure. And that's a good question. And so it looks like in the last year and a third, I think the highest lot coverage that you guys approved was almost 3,500 square feet. So we're close.
I still think the relevance is the size of the lot is so large. That's where I think we're all kind of starting from. hardship, trying to recognize the lot size hardship.
So, and just so I can understand, there's no hardship that we are already over, like when we purchased the house, we were already over, and that's not hardship?
And I'm trying to work with you, so
No, no,
that's why I was asking about the concrete.
And I'm trying to
Look at
understand, too.
concessions here, something that we can work with.
Yeah, I'm
We
trying
have
to
another
understand.
driveway to the side,
Your lot is in irregular shape,
Yeah,
Yes,
I didn't
that was
recognize
what
that, yeah.
struck me when I saw the packet.
because if you, I'm sorry, Alexis, but if you look on the southern portion of that lot, you have all that green space there that really can't be used for anything based upon the lot today. You can't currently put a pool on the side of the house like that versus where he's proposing it in the back. It's still a huge lot coverage. I'm not saying I'm approving it by any means, but because of the way that lot is today, it makes it difficult for him to add that pool on there.
And Mr. Cummings, you're exactly right. So we did look at that side lot, but the problem is it's kind of hard to see in the distance. There's two massive oak trees, and obviously we know how Jack's Beach feels about oak trees. And we love them too. We don't want to get rid of them. So that was kind of a non-starter for us, you know. Because we did put a new fence in last year. We pulled a permit obviously for that, and we did look at the potential of running it up, but taking the trees down was, you know, obviously a no-go.
Could you, given you're pulling up all those pavers,
And, you know, if we did lift up, because we have the shed is partially over the pad,
Yeah.
but there is, there is roughly 105, 106 square feet to the west, to the west and to the south of that shed. I mean, it would not be easy to remove. I mean, we'd have to jackhammer it and get it out there. I mean, but that would, you know, that would free up, you know, 106, 107 or whatever I said square feet if we needed to.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments? No? Okay, there are no requests to speak one way or the other on this. Bring the public hearing's been in and bring it back before the board.
I do recognize the odd shape, increase the pool deck to be a little larger, it could, you know, other square lots, but it's still a very large lot.
Excuse me, board, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that we're putting a roof in, so that's why it's pushed out as well. I forgot to mention that, because otherwise the pool would
The
be,
public hearing's over at this point.
sorry, all right.
I just feel uncomfortable having to redesign something on our own up here based upon that.
I was going to say, what are you comfortable with the lot coverage percentage?
I mean, I think there's things for him he could do, you know, the concrete pad today where he's parking, if that changed to gravel, if they remove the cement landing in front of the shed area there also. But I don't want to make that decision.
So each percentage was approximately 102, 103 square feet, is that correct?
I mean, the one advantage of that neighborhood that I just live in front of it was that it's very slanted towards the intercoastal at that point in time. Everything's down there towards the intercoastal. The water's going to run west all the time.
Yeah, I just see this as really not having a hardship. And I agree, it's irregular shape. So we're also talking about over 10,000 square feet.
It's an RS1. Yeah.
Two of them.
Yeah, but he needs RS1 standards. And what now?
Well, if there's any more discussion, the chair is willing to entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we deny DOA 21-100023.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? May we have a roll call vote, please? vote means no on this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And a no vote means yes.
Francis Remington,
Yes.
Jeff Truitt,
Yes.
Scott Cummings,
Yes.
Alexa Gonzalez,
Yes.
John Moran.
Yes. Sorry, your request has been rejected.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Dr. George. The next item, please.
Board calls case number BOA number 21-100024, applicant owner Catherine Stearns, property address 983 Second Street South, parcel ID 176119-0000, legal description lot 7, block 92, Pablo Beach South, current zoning RM2, motion to consider a variance from Land Development Code Sections 34-340E3C1 for a front yard setback of 8 feet to allow for the construction of a third floor addition and to rectify existing nonconformities to an existing building, and 4 feet to allow for the construction of a third floor porch addition, both in lieu of 20 feet required. 34-340E3C2 for a corner side yard setback of 3 feet in lieu of 10 feet minimum, to allow for the construction of a third floor addition to an existing building, and 34-340E3C3 for a rear yard setback of 24 feet in lieu of 30 feet required, all to allow for the conversion of and improvements to an existing 2-story, 3-unit multiple family building into a 3-story single-family dwelling, and to allow for the construction of 2 new 3-story dwelling units attached to the existing developed multifamily residential structure.
Will the applicant or agent please come forward? And if both of you are likely to speak, both of you this morning.
If I can get you both to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. I'll need you both to state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Carl Sanders, law firm with KJS Law PA. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Ms. and property owner, Ms. Kathy Stearns.
My name is Kathy Stearns. I reside at 983 Second Street South, Jacksonville Beach.
Thank you. Can you please explain the nature of the hardship created by the property?
Yes, sir. Thank you for hearing us this evening, and I will try to be brief. I just want to...
Are you a lawyer?
Yes, sir, I am.
Well, remember that you're going to be brief.
Please don't hold it against me. Ms. Stearns contacted me a little less than 2 weeks ago to assist her with this hearing this evening, and offered to help in a very short time with a large learning curve, but I think I have a hold of it now. So what I'd like to do is just kind of briefly go through why it is that she's here today. I'm going to let her do most of the talking and describe what it is that she's proposing to do with her home. And that's an important fact. This is her home. She is not looking to add any additional units that she already rents out. It's currently 3 units in a single structure. She's now moved there to the property full-time, and she will explain this some more. What she's proposing to do is to make additional improvements to the existing structure for her personal residence, and attached to that structure with, in the rear yard would be 2 additional units. So it's a relocation of the 2 units that are currently in the existing structure. And just for the board's reference while I'm talking, I've got some photos I'm happy to circulate.
Please.
Is this one copy for everybody, or is it a packet?
It's just a whole package.
Okay. I'll just need that.
We've done a lot of paper. So the application here, Ms. Stearns contacted me initially. She was confused about the notice requirements attendant to this application and worried that everything wasn't in place. And when I saw it, I assured her that it was, that staff was covering all bases for her in noticing this application. The concern was, as you may recall, just a couple of years ago, back in 2019, Ms. Stearns was before this board and secured a zoning variance, another zoning variance for the side yards to basically, according to staff, was to ensure that if the structure had been damaged by a hurricane or demolished, that she could rebuild it. So what you have here really is, during the course of this, her ownership of the property, which stems back to 1995. This was an old grocery store back in the day, and then used as a rental unit. She came in 95, started making improvements, and has continued to do so. So the variance that had been granted historically for this structure, currently there, are the eastern side, the eastern setback, which has gone from the eastern side has gone from the required 10 foot to 8 foot. The front yard has gone from 20 foot to 4 foot. The western side is the corner lot, 10 foot to 3. All of those have been approved over the course of the years. The only new addition this time around is the request for a rear variance from the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 24 feet to accommodate these two, the relocation of the two units in a different structure. And for the board's benefit, what I've also done is made a copy, I saw it wasn't in your package, of the November 19 order from this board, along with the site plan that Ms. Stearns submitted at that point in time, where you can see her preliminary plans, which did in fact include the two structures there. It's just too bad, yeah. So back in 2019, she had initially wanted to request and actually did, her initial application, requested the rear yard setback as well. But her plans weren't as fully fleshed out as they are today, which is why we're here now. So she ultimately, after talking with staff, decided to remove that variance request for the rear setback and just stick to the principal structure to ensure that it could be rebuilt in the event that it was torn down. In the interim, what she has done is hired an architect. She has plans she's going to share with you in just a moment to show you that she has done her homework and is looking to make significant improvements to this property, which is her home. She is not an absentee landlord, and how it complies with the requirements for meeting the variance for the rear yard setback. So I won't belabor the point and go through the standard, but the hardship, the principal hardship, if you look at the criteria, and I know that back in 2003, when was the first time she had the idea of adding on a structure in the side yard and sought a variance application back then, which was denied by the board in 2003. Which begs the question, well, what's changed since 2003 and today? A lot has changed, but I'll limit to this application. Principal thing was, at that time, the neighbor who adjoined her property to the east was opposed to the application. The board was sensitive to that, and was one of the factors in their denial of that request. The other thing that has changed is the following year, in 2004, the Board of Adjustment approved a variance for the property directly across the street on the western side of Ms. Stearns' property for an even greater request for setback variances to allow for the improvement and conversion of the multifamily units across the street on the other corner. And that packet that I just handed the clerk is a copy of that order, as well as a photo of the existing improvements that were made to that property. And that is essentially what Ms. Stearns is looking to do today in 2019, and looking to do an even better job of making that. So since that time, again, since 2019 in May, as part of doing her homework, one of the things that she has done is reached out to her neighbors. And my understanding is that there may be some neighbors that aren't adjacent to her in the vicinity who still have questions. I'm not sure if they're opposed or not, but she did reach out to everyone and has the either written or oral support of the 5 neighbors either adjoining her property or directly across the street. I just want to submit this for you as well. And it's an aerial of the area so you can see who it is that she has reached out to. Lastly, before I let Ms. Sturm speak, as I mentioned, she has secured the services of a professional architect who has prepared some preliminary plans and elevations for the project, which she is going to share with you in more detail to show you what it is that she's proposing to construct vertically on the property should this variance request be granted. And I'll leave that with you as well. And that last packet I gave you has the plans for you to go through and circulate, but she also has larger copies as well in the event that the board would like to look at those. And with that being said, if I may have, and again, if to the extent that there's any opposition to this request, we may have an opportunity to rebut, and I would appreciate it. And certainly available to answer your questions.
I just want to make sure I understood one point you made. Reading the motion or the request, according to what I heard you say, was that everything except for the rear yard setback has already been approved.
Yes, so that is how I read the historical documents associated with this, but the current application that staff requested she apply for includes those variances that have previously been heard and approved by this board either in 2019 or in 1995 originally. And those related to front and side yards as it pertains to the existing building footprint, which is going to remain, just going to be improvements. And one of the issues that our neighbors had was, well, are you seeking a variance for a third story? Well, no, because you can't seek that in Jacksonville because you're capped at 35 feet, and you're allowed to go up to that height. And the plans that she will demonstrate to you are well below the maximum height allowed in the code.
How old is the building? Do you know how the building was built? Is it here?
53.
53? It's now just right, 53, the whole three-story structure on that. And my question is, I just want to comment, I mean, you're asking that they were approved. They were just correcting non-conformities in that, what was passed in the past. It wasn't approved to be built that. They were just trying to correct the non-conformities. So I just want to make sure that's, because you're saying they were approved. They were
That's correct. I mean, the variance were granted.
Because it goes back to where it was originally placed.
Right, to afford legal status to what would otherwise be a non-conforming structure because of the setbacks. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
And I assume the architect says we put third story in a 1953 building with wall sets, and that's not my role, but just interesting to see.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm going to be blunt. Okay? I'm going to be blunt, be argumentative. Okay? Are you going to say what's it for you?
Certainly not planning to. I'm just here to help out. I'm just here to help out Ms. Sturms.
This is all being recorded, right, y'all?
I'm sorry?
It's an offer to work for you?
And
It's work for you, right?
No.
It's an honor for you, this is work for you.
This lady here?
Yes.
I have no idea.
Okay.
She is, I assumed that she was with you guys, but she is not with me.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Sturms asked me to help her before this board. And
I have one question, just a question for you. The city's okay with us losing a parking spot on the street? Because see, the original plan currently has 3 and we're going to 2. Is that acceptable by the city?
I actually did not see that.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Jeff, to try to answer the question, I believe they have adequate parking on the lot itself. I don't think that.
Well, this is just saying, both of them are all, currently there's city parking, and the new plan shows, by my notes, and looking at everything I'm looking aerial, it looks like we're losing one parking spot on city parking.
Yeah, I'm not.
There's currently only one parking spot there that's delineated. I just drove by a few.
Okay.
There's just one there.
And the plans that Ms. Sturms will share with you will show that there are, I believe there are accommodations for 6 parking spaces at this proposed improvements.
Which is all the required parking for them.
True. That's not what
Right. Just saying.
Okay, before we get discussing things that much, can we hear from the applicant?
As I stated before, I'm currently reside at 983 Second Street South, which is one of the units in the triplex that I've owned since 1995. So 26 years I've owned the property. I initially moved down there with my children, and it was a blighted area in 1995. I was actually took advantage of some of the Jacksonville Beach's incentive money to improve the property because Jacksonville Beach was trying to revive the area at that time. I applied for the first variance in 1995. It was an old grocery store and a rental, had 2 rental units. I converted it to a triplex with the approval of the city of Jacksonville. And I greatly improved the property. I resided in the upstairs and I rented the 2 units below. I moved from the beach in 2000 and then rented all of the units. In 2003, as Mr. Sanders spoke to, I applied for a second variance in an attempt to build 2 additional structures in my backyard. I've got a pretty big backyard back there. My request was denied due to my easterly neighbor objecting. That is the only objection, or only neighbor that came through to deny it, but that was enough for the board to deny it. So in 2019, I applied for my 3rd variance in an attempt to build the 2 additional units again and increase the existing building to 3 stories, pretty much what I'm trying to do now. I was informed by the city planner that I didn't have approval for the non-conforming setbacks that were there, whereby I thought I did. I thought 95 covered it, but she told me that if something were to happen to the property, like a storm or a fire that would damage it more than 50%, I would have to demolish the structure and start over again. I mean, at this point, I've put a lot of money and effort and blood, sweat, and tears into that home. I mean, it's a sound structure, and so I want to keep improving upon it. In spring of last year, when we were starting this pandemic, I moved back to the beach. I filed for homestead, and I lived there with my adult son. The 2 ground units are now used as a rental, so I just came back to what I had done before, lived in the upstairs and rented the downstairs units. At this point, I'm really seeking to improve the existing unit, the existing structure, make it 1 unit and make it my personal residence with a 2-car garage underneath as depicted in that drawing, because it's just not enough room for me, my adult son, and I have an elderly aunt. She has problems walking. She would like to move in with me as well. So that's why I decided that we need to go up 1 level in order to afford enough living space for me, my adult son, and my aunt. I also have grandchildren and family members that like to visit as well, and the existing space I have is not enough. And I would also like to be able to park cars underneath in a more secure fashion, so I would take care of, the parking requirements for that particular unit. The 2 additional units would each be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 1-car garage on the ground floor and 1 parking spot in front of the garages to also comply before zoning, before setback requirements. The building has existed for 68 years with no complaints or issues. I'm not requesting to go over 35 feet. The lot width is 50 feet versus the typical multifamily lot width of 75 feet. So there is a hardship. ones that, here I am, I contacted all the ones that are directly around me. So my easterly neighbor, they moved 2 years ago, so I have a new easterly neighbor they totally support, and I actually have written correspondence, which I think Mr. Sanders already gave you. And then the 2 neighbors across the street, one of them I've got the written correspondence from, the other a verbal. The people catty cornered, they supported my proposal to improve the property. And then the 2 owners that are directly west of me, Mr. Monroe and also Dr. Rhodes, agreed with my plans for improvement. So I just want to get into a little detail here. I have like some large schematics of some of the plans that my architect put together. His name is Bob Gray, and he asked that I read you just a short little letter from him regarding the structure of the building and why he feels that we do need to go up a 3rd floor and how that can be done. So if I may.
You're gonna have to turn that later, Rex.
What?
I think it's,
You're gonna have to
I
do that
believe
later.
it's- Is
Maybe
it,
It's part of the packet.
does it begin, I would like to explain why I support the granting of
Yes.
the request.
If you
I'll
could just
I'll
read
be,
it.
I'll be reading that with the public comment.
Oh, okay. All right, then I'll just skip this. All right, so I'm asking for a 3rd floor to be built on top of the existing structure and a 3rd porch to be built on top of the existing porch on the south side. This will provide additional living space for me and my family, and it will also give a cohesive, solidly built structure with clean roof lines and a roof with a common elevation.
George, if she shows us that, does she need to use the city?
Technically, yes. She should, she
You're
should supply this.
If you're gonna use that and show it to us, the requirement is that you will have to basically give it to the city.
Oh, that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the site plan as it is today. And you have a smaller copy of this in the packet that Mr. Sanders gave you. So that's basically as it is today.
And I see the 3 parallel spots, and then it looks like what's room for 4 spots facing the front of the building. Are all 7 of those your property's designated spots? Or
None of
just
those are. The 4
they're all public?
The 4
Okay.
parallel spots, parking spots that you see on the south, that's in the easement, the
Okay.
city easement, which a lot of my neighbors use. I mean, I use it too, but that's not my property. These 3 here, that's public parking there.
This is an extra question.
This is my proposed site, which is up there. Okay, so I'm ready to walk out right. And this is the south elevation, and it shows what I'm proposing and what's there now. So this is what I'm proposing. A 3rd floor to go on top of the existing structure with a 3rd floor porch to go on top of the 2nd floor porch. So the 2nd floor has already been approved, and I thought I could just build on top of that since I have a 35-foot height limit, but I've learned.
So the 4 spaces they were just asking about, the
Right.
people parked on will no longer be available if
driveway. There might be a little room on the sides, but that will be part of my driveway, which my neighbors use also as, when they, the ones that do have a driveway use as well. Yes, yes.
The neighbors would use your.
No, they use their easement as their driveway. They use their own
Sure,
easement as
sure.
their driveway. And then this is the west elevation from Second Street. So, he just put this together for me this week for y'all's benefit. But that's kind of how the west side would look. Where you see the stairs from the south side, and then you have your one-car garage and your entrance for the 2 units. And then you've got,
Thank you.
and there is some language in the letter that the architect put together that talks about the structural improvements that would be made and easily made, easier made with what I'm trying to do by building the structure on top of what's already there versus having to adhere to setbacks on just a 3rd level. So, since you are going to read that. And one other thing I wanted to mention is in the description that the planners put together, they actually added some language that talked about correcting, I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. Does someone have what my actual...
Rectifying existing non-conformities?
Yeah, that piece right there. And that's because the interpretation of what I've already been given is just not clear. So that's what I would like to end this meeting with, because I'm wanting to move, if you saw this picture here, I would really like to move the stairs. They come up like to the side now, but if I'm going to go with a 3rd story, it just looks so much better and more architecturally pleasing if I'm able to move those south stairs in the middle. I'm not going to go out anymore. I'm not going to take any more of a setback than which is already here. This particular end of the stairs actually ends on my property line, but I would have a much, it would be a nicer looking building if I could just come up the center of the stairs versus over to the side. And have 1-car garage on each side. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I was always looking for when I purchased that property, to improve it. Not just to improve it by painting it, but actually make it something that is nice and enhances the community. And I'm sorry for so long.
Thank you.
I ask you just one question.
Yes.
You intend to rent any of these units?
Say this again?
You intend to rent any of these units?
I didn't hear that.
Do you intend to rent any of these units? Yes.
Sure, it's a multifamily property, and I've always made income off of those units that I've rented. It helps pay the bills for living down here, quite honestly. So those 2 additional units would be rentals. And the unit I'm living in, I've homesteaded that. So I'm planning to make that my home, and I'm planning to invest in these structures so they're nice and they're not something that a storm is going to knock down very easily. I'm pretty much.
Thank you.
I have some questions.
Let's do public comments, yeah.
Can I ask you a couple questions first?
Sure.
The plans you showed are different from what we're seeing here. Because you got your split garage in the last elevation you showed us. And up there, you have two-car garage.
No, it's not. It's not the same.
So which one are we approving?
What,
Because the one you showed us, the
The one you just showed us had the
100%.
split drive with the chair, with the
Well-
stairs and stuff.
You don't approve either one of the plans, you approve the dimensional setbacks.
Dimensions,
She can build it to look whatever she wants.
But which way is the driveway?
well, I want to be able to put one car on each side and put a stairway down the middle. Again, I'm not going to be changing, coming out any further to the south at all. I just want to make sure I can do that.
You're basically splitting that instead of a two-car garage, you have a garage on each side of that.
And
I think that's what I think.
Just like that picture.
And the stairs separate them.
Right.
I thought maybe turning the house around.
Yeah, but we're not approving the design.
I know.
All we're doing is approving the dimensions on the property.
But I have a follow-up question to that, please. If you're gonna move the stairs to the middle, why do you need the 8-foot variance then? Why not put the stairs up further so we have that 8 feet there?
I think the 8 feet is already approved based on where the
True.
structure is now.
True, but the app actually has to get pre-approval to add on to that, and she's gonna change the whole layout of it. Push the stairs in, so you still have the stairs the way it's set up, but just not coming out the 8 feet.
Well, I have in the porch, the existing structure is 8 feet, is it 8 feet from my setback, and then the porch is another 4 feet. So, it doesn't even account for the stairs that come out like that. The stairs come all the way to the property line. All I was looking to do was to move that stairs down so it's centered, but not go over my property line. I would be away from the public sidewalk that way. It would add a little bit more privacy, and I could have a one-car garage on each unit. It's just, it's a nicer look. to me.
Does that answer your question, Scott? Okay.
It does appear, though, that the change you've made, would that not preclude people from parking along 10th Avenue South if you block your driveway if they did?
There's no parking, I mean, the parking that's on 10th Avenue South is the easement. The people that park there are usually in my building.
So, I'm not
It's
sure
not
about that.
public parking.
That's public right of way on 10th Avenue.
Yes, it's public.
So they would be eliminating the 4 spots for public parking right in front of your house
No.
because you would have to drive in and out of your driveway. You don't have your
But then there
garage.
would be some parking, the easement would still be available in the middle. Well, I'm not
sure what you mean by an easement. It's public right of way.
okay, public right of way. Yeah, so right now, parking in my building is on the public right of way. And if I put a garage on each side, and have a driveway, it would really make no difference to the public, right of way versus if I put the cars all to one side. We would use the same, area for putting the cars to the side or putting them on each side.
And can I see clarity on the statement you just made, just because there's been a lot of sentences there? You just said you would have a driveway and garage for each unit.
I said, okay, let me just restate. For unit 1,
Right.
that's what we're talking about, right?
Correct.
I would have a 2-car garage underneath on the first level.
You're not renting anything out of unit 1, is that correct?
That would be my house.
Right. But
Okay.
you're not having, so you're not still continuing rentals in unit 1, then unit 2 and unit 3. I was asking that.
I'm gonna rent out 2 and 3, and I'm gonna live in unit 1.
Currently, you have rentals in unit 1, is that correct?
I do, but I'm going to need that first floor for my parking, for the stairs, for the elevator, for storage, and I'm gonna leave a bathroom down there.
My question just was, we're not renting, we're not continuing renting out of unit 1. That's your answer, thank you.
We have people who requested to speak.
Yes, sir. We have a card from Carl Sanders. Do you care to speak again, or this is just to speak? Next card is David Robold, 123 10th Avenue South, Jacksonville Beach, wishes to address the board.
If I could have you raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah.
So I need you to state your name and address for the record, and you'll need to speak loudly, please.
David Robold, and it's 123 10th Avenue South.
Your practice, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't know if you had the opportunity to read through everything. I guess I'll go through it briefly. Some of the points I think were already addressed, but the prior, I guess, the main points would be this has already been before this board once, years ago, a similar type of request, and it was denied. I think it's important that this board's decisions are adhered to and not flip-flop back and forth. A similar project, smaller scale, was already denied once. And I think that previous board's decision should be honored, and I think it should set precedents for today. This is a larger scale project. It's asking for more variances, and therefore it should be denied. Also, the applicant can actually build this to code. She can't build her project to code, but she can reasonably use this land, and I think that's the point of all of this, is that can she reasonably use this land to have a project without having to have a variance, and she can do that. She can build it to the setbacks. The third floor, I think there is one correction there. She doesn't have a variance for a third floor. She had a variance to rebuild a two-story building that's already existing. There was not a variance granted, there was not a variance asked for to move a third floor toward the street. That's important to us. We are just to the east of her, and of course having a three-story building 50 feet away is going to create privacy issues. It's going to create sunset issues, quite honestly. If those buildings are casting shade on our old wooden house that's been in our family for, I think, 102 years, we're going to have mold issues down where we live. She's effectively asking for a variance on top of a variance, or a variance because she has a variance. Let's see. I think there is a correction. There is, if you look at the plans, there will be at least one parking space lost on Second Street. If that's important to the city. She added one there. You can see there with the cutouts. You're going to lose. I think I provided a picture in the package of the two spots that will be lost. Possibly three. It's quite a large spot, actually, not really delineated, and you can't actually fit 3 cars there on this parallel parking. So there would be loss of at least one parking space. The other issue that I have is you kind of commented on it, is that you guys are talking about the side backs and allowing, and you're approving the side backs. And then once that's approved, she can design this property however she wants, and she can use it however she wants. She has provided in the package there, she talked about all the improvements that she did to this property. All the improvements, hardwood floors, granite countertops. She is a super host on Airbnb. And I don't think we need to bear our head in the sand and try to believe that she's going to demolish all of this improvement that she just stated that she's done over the years. I think it's more likely that she's going to have units downstairs where they already exist or they're already being rented out right now. There's tenants in there now. Look on the website. The variances that she's asking for, at least on the third floor, are not minimum. I think one of the requirements is that the minimum variance would, or you grant a variance that's minimal impact to make this parcel of land used reasonably. And it's not. She's going on third floor at least 8 feet versus 20 on the front yard, 4 feet rather than 20 on the porch, 3 feet rather than 10 on the corner. The fact that she already has that structure with the variances where they are can push
I guess, with reduced side setbacks. It actually provides her on the north side of where this unit 1 and 2 are, it actually provides all that space for her to build. She doesn't need a variance. She can build whatever structure she wants to and comply with the code as it exists. So, I'd also like to comment, she kind of made a comment that there's been no issues over the years. That's not true. There's been noise problems, there's been parking problems. She indicated that her tenants are using the easement there to the south to park. It's not uncommon for them to park across the street and further east down for our property. I think that was one of the reasons that when it came before the board before, that the tenant adjacent to her, the homeowner adjacent to her, had quite an objection because of those reasons. So, in conclusion, this has been addressed before by the board, a smaller scale project. I think that the prior decision should be honored. She can build without a variance. She doesn't need a variance. She's not, I haven't heard a hardship at all stated by her or included in her application. She's removing parking space and attempting to use easement space, city space for her driveway. I think this is the wrong project for this neighborhood. There's going to be multiple tenants in there. It should be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. There's a second card for Robert Robold. Is there another Robert Robold? Robert L. Robold, 123 10th Avenue South, Jacksonville Beach, Florida, wishes to address the board.
If I could get you to raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, I need you to state your name and address, and you'll need to speak loudly for us.
I'm sorry, I do speak very loud. I'll try hard. 123 10th Avenue South is my address. Like Dave said, my son, who probably had been in the family for over 100 years.
Could you speak in the microphone?
Yes, I can.
So it's just in front of your face?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh. No, all I would like to do is just reiterate what my son has already stated and to express that one of the reasons I was here when this was denied the first time, which I think she said that only the next door neighbor complained about, which is not quite accurate. But notwithstanding that, all I would like to do is reiterate that I confirm all that my son has just spoken about, and I'd like to put my name on the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker card is for John F. Swindell, 115 10th Avenue South.
Sir, if I could get you to raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the
Of Ms. Stern. We're under oath, is that correct?
Pardon
Are
me?
we still under oath?
Yes. Yes.
Should I ask her a question?
No.
Can I? I'm kind of questioning this homestead thing, because I've lived there 37, 38 years. And I have seen multiple people coming in and out of that 3-unit consistently over that time. As a matter of fact, just last week, I counted 10 people coming out of one unit, going to the beach. I assume they're all family, don't know. What concerns me is we're on 10th Avenue South that has public parking at the very end of the street, which can be a nightmare. And if we get more units in, as long as they're legal, that's fine. But if we get more saturation in that locale, it's not good for any of the residents that live there full-time. And my concern is that, yeah, you may pass this because of the setbacks and you're not dealing specifically with the building. I mean, I look at this plan, I don't know what that area is in front of that two-car garage. Is that storage? Or is that an efficiency apartment? I don't know what it is. I guess long and short of it, I don't take up too much of your time, it's getting late. But it's nothing personal. It's just that I think for the betterment of the neighborhood, I don't see this as being a loss. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a packet from David Rogold that he addressed during his public statement. There is a letter from Kurt Clemens of 1002 2nd Street South, Jacksonville Beach. Dear Board, I have lived on the corner of 2nd Street South and 10th Avenue South for 9 years. Since living here, the short-term rentals on my corner have grown to 8 in number. 209 10th Avenue South, 231 10th Avenue South, 922 2nd Street South, 924 2nd Street South, 926 2nd Street South, and 983 2nd Street South, 3 units. The proposed additions to 983 2nd Street South will be adding to the already high volume of transient people and cars that are already over capacity limits for this area, and the neighbors who call this small area their home. For the owners who call this area their home, we have slowly watched our neighborhood turn into a strip of motels. The tenants that rent these motel-type properties come to the beach to get away from home and have a vacation. Just like at any motel, they pay their money and they are here to have a good time, and just like any motel, some come for quiet enjoyment and some don't. I'm sure that you all know what a motel atmosphere is like, but below are just a few examples of the motel atmosphere that the homeowners in the area are currently enduring. Multiple car doors and trunks slamming shut at all times of the nights. Renters inviting over groups of friends to stay with them or have parties. These people have no place to park, so they will park illegally or possibly in someone's yard. Uber vehicles dropping off and picking up groups of friends for parties, their car doors slamming at all hours. Not a great night of sleep for someone who has to get up for work in the early morning. I noticed over 60 people in one of these units. I am sure that is over fire code occupancy limits. Drunken people outside being loud and obnoxious, fights in the middle of our streets, shooting off fireworks, even M80 bombs before and after the 4th of July or any day of the year. We even had a renter and his friends throwing and shooting fireworks at cars and people that were coming down our streets. Even if the owners pledge they will turn their units into long-term rentals or start living there full-time, there is no guarantee that they will not change back to short-term renting. What if the owners sell their units to another short-term rental investor next year? That new owner could make them short-term units. My question to the board is, would you like to live next to a growing cluster of motels? Quiet enjoyment is the right of every property owner to enjoy his or her property in peace. Sincerely, Kurt Clemens. And I have the letter from her architect. Dear Variance Board, I would like to explain why I support the granting of the request for Kathy Stearns. Relief for third floor over existing structure. The existing variance relief granted was helpful, but it falls short if the third floor improvement has to conform to the guidelines of the lot without variance. The primary reasons are as follows. The primary reason is that the third floor doesn't stack over the existing elements and creates a disjointed load path for the structural engineering design. There is additional stability to the building in general and limits the interior columns that would have to be added. It makes maintaining the existing design more complicated and causes an inordinate amount of additional demolition. The second reason is an architectural opinion. I have studied the alternatives to this requirement and they are less attractive from the street view on 10th Avenue South. I also believe that the easterly building will have better continuity with the 2-unit addition to the north. I was able to use the roof lines and materials to create a consistent architectural language that allows the massing to appear balanced and complementary. 6 feet of relief for the rear setback. The granting of this will improve the site access to the 2-car per unit requirement. It allows for a 1-car garage for each unit and enough space to have a single bedroom on the first floor. It will also allow for the small green space that is planned between the original unit and the two northern units. Exterior stair requirement. The planning department has interpreted that the existing exterior stair and walkway on the south cannot be relocated in any manner based on the wording of the granted variance. I have offered a south elevation and floor plans that show what is possible if a new stair location is centered and an additional recess is created to allow space for the stairs to meet at the landing of the front door. The stairs that I show are just to the north of the 10th Avenue South property line, just centered. Thanks for your consideration, Robert Gray. And his packet includes many of the drawings that she shared with us. And that's it.
Thank you. One of you like to respond to comments?
Thank you again, to the Chair, Carl Sanders, for property owner Ms. Stearns. And I'll be brief. Three things, actually. One, it sounds like based upon what the opposition stated in the letter that was just read, that there's a concern about short-term rentals. This is not a short-term rental situation. We're not talking about a property use. It already is entitled, in fact, used as rental currently, historically rental for 3 units. As Ms. Stearns explained earlier, she has recently moved into the home and is making unit 1, building 1, her permanent home, and will continue to rent out 2. So in actuality, you're losing the rental of the historic 3 units.
I just talked to him for just a minute.
Yes. And maintaining the short-term rentals which are allowed by code. And as I think your building official aptly said earlier, the issue here is the setbacks. It's not the use, it's not the architecture. We provided you with the architectural renderings to give you an idea of what her vision is, how it will look aesthetically, and her belief is that it will blend in quite well with the neighborhood. But this is not a case of introducing something new that isn't already there today. In terms of the use, it's in fact minimizing the existing use that's there today. And then secondly, if I may, the issue, I believe that was a question arose earlier, I believe, as to the parking and off-street parking that's currently there. I don't know how the city treats official parking spaces, but yes, there is underground right-of-way on the south side of the home, and as was indicated in 2019 when the prior variance was approved, again speaking to the setbacks, but you guys had this part of the packet that I handed out. In that particular packet, you had the same issue in terms of 2nd Avenue South with respect to the drive coming for parking, but that drive on the site plan was approved by this board, was centered on the property, and currently it's to the east of the property, presumably, I'm guessing leaving at least if 4 cars can fit there today, probably 2 more in the future on the right-of-way. But the idea here, one of the primary reasons for going vertical is to put those parking spaces on site for those very reasons. The parking deficiencies in the area, it makes more sense to have them on site and covered. And lastly, I will just reiterate, and again, as it pertains to the site plan, what it is that we're here for. It's a setback issue. And historically, the setbacks that have historically been approved, previously been approved for this property on the east, on the south, and on the westerly corner, those aren't changing. There's no change in the request that's before you today that was noticed by staff and what was previously approved by the board. The only thing changing in terms of building 1 is the architectural elevations and the height, but those aren't setback issues. The new setback issue that you have today that you did not have in 2019 pertains to the rear yard, which is, again, where the 2 new structures attached to the unit 1 would be attached, and we're asking that to go from 30 feet to 24
clarification, so this is not a short-term Airbnb usage? Because you're saying this is not short-term rental, if you understand the definition of short-term rental.
Just through the chair, if that's what was heard, I
You said
apologize.
yourself, this is not a short-term rental application.
Well, it's not, that's not what we're here for today.
I understand that, this is a question that's being asked.
Right, it's
So it is
historically
an
been
Airbnb,
used for
it is an
short-term
Airbnb.
rentals, it has historically been used for short-term rentals, and it will continue to be used for short-term rentals. The new change is that
I
the
understand.
homeowner will be.
It's a yes, no question. The second part, is this a registered short-term rental in Jackson Beach?
I have no idea.
I can answer that
Are you
question.
registered?
Because I live, okay.
Not required, she's in multi-family zone, it's not required.
Okay, so
You gotta take that.
That's,
Yeah, I take that.
The question is, are you registered short-term rental?
you only have to register if you're an RS1, period.
How would you ask that, so you want to? That's my question.
That's not up to this board.
That's the way it was written.
I would pay taxes on RS1 down at,
I didn't know either.
That was like,
I assumed everybody had to.
I thought it was all registered. I thought that's what we classified. Okay, thank you, George.
Yeah, and I'd just like to remind us that whatever the usage is not relevant.
Yeah.
I'd just like to-
Yes.
that this is a dimensional issue. You may be seated.
That's it, unless the board has any further questions, we're happy to do our best to.
Excuse me, just for clarification, Jeff, I just want you to know, you don't have to register with the city, okay? All the rentals have to register with the state. That's the regulation, but you don't have to register with Jacksonville Beach.
That's correct. And,
Any questions?
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Now bring the meeting back, close the public hearing, and bring the meeting back to the board, discussion and decision.
Just want to make a awesome thing. I was really, I'm glad everybody was so brief.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It just, in my opinion here, since they're making major construction changes, I can see why we passed the variance for the front yard setbacks previously. But if they're making all those changes, I don't see why we need to allow that moving forward when there's that much space on that lot. And for that, I don't think I'm not gonna pass that vote for that.
May I speak? I think it's important for the court reporter to note that this board has applied section 34-286 and its 6 criteria. And I would encourage the board to look specifically at 1, 2, and 3, which I think we could probably agree that there are circumstances that would support a variance. However, for 4, I find that there is no hardship. For 5, that there still would be a reasonable use of the land without the granting of the variance. And for 6, that there is an adverse effect on the adjacent land. That will be my comments.
Any other comments?
I live pretty close to them in the summer. And everything that Mr. Clemens said in his letter, and I know I'm not supposed to be worried about this, but it's like it happens. Goes on with the short-term rentals.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
I'm sorry, I missed this comment.
He said he lives in the area, and what was stated in Mr. Clemens' letter, he can attest to. It has become an issue with short-term rentals. I would just say that the one, as far as I understand it, the one request that she's made that has not been previously approved and applied here is a setback of 24 feet in lieu of 30, which is going to allow for more off-street parking. I would find it hard to not approve that. And I can appreciate the impassioned feedback from the neighbors. Obviously, the 3-story comment was made on both sides, but as far as I can tell, she's not going above the 35-foot height limit. She hasn't asked for a variance to that, and she's already in those previously approved setbacks at 2 stories. So I think the only reason, as far as I understand it, the only reason she's got to ask for them again is because this 3rd floor will now be in those previously approved amended setbacks.
I would say that's correct.
Okay.
Well, see, just to correct you, we can't give a variance for over 35 feet. You said she was paying under, we can't give a variance.
Right, but
35
she
feet.
will be under 35.
Just so you understand.
The chair would be more than happy to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve BOA number 21-100024 as it meets the standards of our land development code.
Is there a second?
I'll second for further discussion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, then we have a roll call vote, please.
Jeff Truax,
No.
Scott Cummings,
No.
Alexa Gonzalez,
Yes.
Francis Remington,
No.
John Merlin.
No. Your motion's been requested to be denied. You would have the next item?
Case number BOA number 21-100029, applicant owner Brooke Sams, property address 3916 Poinciana Boulevard, parcel ID 181370-0000. Legal description, Lot 3, Block 12, Ocean Terrace, current zoning RS1. Motion to consider a variance from Land Development Code Sections 34-336E1E for 49.5% lot coverage in lieu of 35% maximum, and 34-336E1G for an accessory structure setback of 3 feet in lieu of 5 feet minimum to allow for a pool and paver patio addition to an existing single-family dwelling.
If I could have you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. I need you to state your name and address for the record, please.
Brooke Sams, 3916 Poinciana Boulevard. So I would just like to start with our hardship. There it is. Okay. We are a substandard lot. We are zoned RS1, where our standard size lot is 10,000 square feet, and our current lot size is 6,650 square feet. We're asking for an increase of land use from the current 42% that was approved for our home builder to 49.5% for pavers and walkway around our pool deck for safe travel around the pool area for our children and guests. If our lot was a standard size lot, this addition would put us at 32.9% lot coverage. We have also spoken to all of our surrounding neighbors and had our neighbors to the north and south who are most affected by this sign a note to show their approval of the coverage. I can bring this to you. I understand that every variance is given on a case-by-case basis. In our case, the extra lot coverage will allow us to have full visibility of our pool and our small children, who are 6 and 4 years old, at all times. It would allow us to have chairs as well as ample walking room to get in and out of the pool. The pathway we are seeking, you can see that kind of goes around the side. That pathway actually leads to the only downstairs restroom. And so that's important to us. We're trying to avoid people coming in and out of the house and slipping and falling with wet feet. We kept the walkway, we talked about that, okay. I'd also like to add that we currently have a ribbon driveway with gravel, so we did try to minimize our lot coverage there. We kindly ask that you consider all of these factors in your decision. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
You approved 4019. You're currently 39.8, is that correct? Yes. this area that's goes out toward, like, the little 3-foot mark, is that just an added area for seating? Is that what you were referencing?
Yes,
Bump out on the decking?
so the way that our patio is situated and the way that the pool is situated, you don't have full visibility of the, south side of the pool. And so we wanted that extra seating coming out so that we can have full visibility of the pool, basically, really to keep an eye on our children.
Okay. I don't think I had a question on that one. And is the pool built already?
Yes, we, purchased the home in January of this year.
So
the
they built
previous-
the pool, is it a new house you bought?
Yes, the previous variance was from our builder.
Builder, and he
Yes.
built a pool without a deck around it, huh?
There's no deck around it.
That's interesting, that's all.
But he's not asking forgiveness.
We put in mulch in the.
That's gotta be fun.
That's not a good thing.
Any other questions? You ready to see it? Do we have any public speaking requests?
We do not.
There's no one who's signed up to speak, so we close the public hearing and bring it back before the board.
It's only 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Small ones, it's substandard lot.
And she is correct, that it is equivalent to 32.5%.
Oh, never mind. Check the neighbors support, it's nice to see that.
Neighbor support and they're just on site, still seems to be a decent amount of unused space left over on the lot.
Full membership, right?
I move we approve BOA number 21-100029 as it meets the standards of our land development code.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion on the motion? If not, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Scott Cummings,
Yes.
Alexa Gonzalez,
Yes.
Francis Reddington,
Yes.
Jeff Trudeau,
Yes.
John Moore.
Yes. Your request has been approved.
Thank you. Mr. Rebel?
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Our next meeting is on the
April 20th.
April 20th. We have how many cases?
5. Motion to adjourn?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.